Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our BizHack Live webinar. We will be starting shortly. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you, Wendelin. It's great to have you here. Thank you everyone for joining. Welcome. We will be starting shortly. Thank you for being here with us for our weekly BizHack Live webinar in Zoom Mastery. We're also live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on our Twitter channel. You can follow us in all our social media accounts at BizHack Academy. You can find us there. Bruce Turkel is in the house. Nice to see you, Bruce. You're on mute.
I said, yes, I saw that. I said, hello. Good to see you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Hey, Dan.
Hi, Bruce. Great to have you here.
Thanks for the invite. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, Lily, I was kind of enjoying listening to you do a great facsimile of me. Well done, welcoming people. You know, I really take seriously from my broadcast days the idea of being a host. You know, when you're hosting someone and somebody enters your house, you welcome them. And I think you did a beautiful job of that. And my co-host today is Rosemary. Can't wait to have you back. Like Bruce Turkel, you're our second two-time BizHack Live presenter. So I'm very excited. We'll give it just one more minute. We had almost 200 RSVPs today, so we're still, I think, a few minutes, we're still getting a lot of people kind of coming in, you know, on Miami time. So let's just give it another minute before we get started. And Bruce, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well. My typical line is all things considered, all things are great. Lots of changes, transitions, new ideas, new things to try out. It's very interesting and therefore exciting times. So I'm doing just fine. Thank you for asking.
You know, I think it's worth mentioning that both Rosemary and I were part of a mastermind group that you hosted or that you organized and that I promoted to this audience. You know, I think it's, if you don't mind taking a second while we just wait for some more folks to roll in, what have you learned? You know, I personally loved it. You can hear my testimonial on Bruce's website. So I've sort of said my piece, but I'm curious what you've learned from that experience of creating a new business offering and pivoting your business during COVID.
Well, I could tell you a bunch of things. I mean, we can talk about technical learning, we could talk about marketing learning, and we could talk about content learning. First of all, I learned that it was both successful enough and also important enough to the people who participated that I've already set up 2 new ones, and they're both filling up because people are really looking for new ways of dealing with what's going on. And I think most importantly, the premise that we started with was the premise of people looking for certainty. The premise that we ended with was that the answer to what's going on now is relationships. It's the ability to have people you can count on, you can check with. I just saw Dave Bricker pop on. Dave Bricker is my go-to guy for technical issues. I mean, so much of this is technical. Technical is so important. Technical is not my specialty. Sure, any of us on this line can probably do it better than laymen can, but still, it's not what we are best at. So knowing Dave means I can simply say, hey, Dave, I can't figure this out. Can you take care of this for me? And it's become a wonderful quid pro quo. Rosemary becomes my go-to person for presentation skills in this technical environment, which means I don't have to know how to do things. I know how to get them done. And I think we've all found that out from what the group provided, because I can tell you that of the 20 people on the group, I speak to all of them on a regular basis now, and I know everybody speaks to each other. So that's one thing I learned. I don't want to go on for too long, but let me say also I learned that all the things we did to get us to where we are, that we now think have gone out the window because of what COVID has changed, in fact, have become incredibly valuable. We just have to think of them in different terms. So for example, what I learned how to do, the marketing skills, the presenting skills, I was traveling around the world speaking at conferences live. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to do it on Zoom. It's going to be awful. Well, the truth is it actually worked out really well on Zoom because there was a level of intimacy and a level of vulnerability that the technology provided, which then allowed me to do what I had learned to do over all these years. So it's not a matter of saying, I have these skills, they've now become obsolete because of the new world. It's a matter of saying, I have these skills. How do I reposition them to make sense for what people need right now? And that was huge learning for me. And it sent me off in a whole new direction. Instead of lamenting what I had that is now gone, I'm instead excited about what I can do moving forward.
You just continue, Bruce. I mean, you're doing my presentation for me. This is formidable. This is like the most prestigious warm-up act I've ever had. So please go on.
It's funny you say that. The band that I played in, we used to get hired by the county, and we would open for a lot of the dinosaur bands that would play at festivals. So we opened for the Jefferson at Starship. We opened for Charlie Daniels Band. We opened for Grand Funk, all those kind of bands. And we would tell people, yeah, we opened for these bands. That was our status. But one time we opened for Bo Diddley, except Bo Diddley didn't want to go on at the time he was slotted. He wanted to go on earlier. It was a fundraiser for Janet Reno way back when. So he played first and then we played. So I get to tell people that Bo Diddley opened for us. So that's how this works.
I spent many years doing improv, and I'm going to improvise for a second here. Since I got you, Bruce, you want to go ahead and introduce Rosemary, and then we'll kick it in?
I would love to introduce Rosemary. That's an honor. And everyone on this screen, hi, Susan, everyone on the screen will particularly appreciate it because I don't actually have the facts in front of me. So I'm not going to bore you with CVs and all of that. And if I tell you she was on Telemundo and she was on Univision or whatever, I'd get all that wrong. So instead, it's going to be, and by the way, you can look all that stuff up. It's not that it actually matters. I believe in being truthful, not necessarily factual. So I'm not going to be factual, but I am going to be truthful. Rosemary is a powerhouse. Rosemary is one of those people who either directly or indirectly figured out what her superpower was and figured out a way to let it shine. Because what you're going to see, you're going to learn from what she says. You're going to learn from what she teaches you. You're going to learn from the ideas, the plans, the programs that she presents. I don't even know what they are, but I know they're going to be awesome. But what you're going to learn more from is watching her, because what you're about to see is a masterclass, not simply in presenting. Obviously, she's a good presenter. That's what she does. But it's a masterclass in presenting who you are and why you matter. Those of you who've taken my programs know I talk all the time about people don't buy what you do, they buy who you are. Plenty of people could get up on this screen and do a presentation on presentation skills. In fact, plenty of people on this call could do that, but none of them can get up and be Rosemary. And you're going to see charm, you're going to see graciousness, you're going to see eloquence, you're going to see beauty, you're going to see stage skills, you're going to see command of language and verbal language and of body language. You're going to see all of that. But what you're going to take away is, oh my God, Rosemary is amazing. And I would advise you all that your job is to figure out how do you take your skills and present them the way she's going to do. Because what you're about to watch is really a master at work. My friend, I'm honored and pleased to say that, and thank you for giving me that opportunity, Dan. My friend, Rosemary Ravinal.
Woo. Thank you. Thank you. If I could reach out through this lens and hug you, I would. Consider it done. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and new faces. What I love about what we're going to do for the next hour is that this is about you. This is about how you can tap into your personal power in the confines of this Brady Bunch tile. Most people still today are giving it up because you're not showing up. How many calls, and there's even some people on this webinar who are not turning on their videos, right? How many times are you talking to a blank or a black screen? Well, you know, folks, those times have to end now, because the reason we're here today and the reason this is such a popular topic and the reason I created a workshop series is because virtual is here to stay. As a matter of fact, we talk about Zoom as a shortcut, because Zoom could be GoToMeeting, could be Skype, it could be Blue Jeans, it could be numerous different platforms. The point is that because of COVID and after COVID, we're going to be communicating remotely via this platform, whether we like it or not. So we have to get with the program, because our personal power, our ability to succeed in whatever endeavor you're doing, in whatever field you're in, is going to rely heavily on your ability to be authentic, clear, compelling, okay, and effective in this space. I don't have to tell you that it also can affect your personal relationships, hence the beautiful, beautiful value of public speaking. But we're going to be talking about just a few of the items that I cover in my workshops because of time. We're going to be talking about the importance of getting this right. We're going to be talking about how your nonverbal communication, how facial features and expressions, how gestures can accentuate, enhance, and complement your message. We're going to be talking about visual composition, a pretty picture, how to organize this rectangle so that it shows the best of you. Okay, I'm going to show some slides. I'm going to stop the slide share so we can have some conversation. We're going to play a little game called the ZoomScore game, where I'm going to invite you to rate some images of people you've likely seen on cable news. You've seen them, you see them every day. Many of them have very sophisticated sets. They are based in their homes. We're going to ask you to critique some of them. And then we're going to put somebody in the hot seat. And we're going to invite a volunteer to come forward and to allow me very gently and lovingly to help you improve the way your video looks right now today. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing some images. And I'm sure you've seen or you've done this before, right? The days of working in your pajamas are over. As a matter of fact, I like this image, which really defines my ZoomScore concept, because even if you're sitting at home right now, you're taking away from your power by not dressing fully for the role that you want to hold. I have clients who do very high stakes job interviews, and I tell them, don't just wear the upper body, upper half with a jacket, suit, and tie. Dress all the way down to your toes. Put on your dress socks and dress shoes. Psychologically, it makes the difference. So I'm saying you have to step up your Zoom game. First impressions. We all know about, we learn about first impressions mostly in the sense of job interviews, right? Or in dating. Now, this gentleman is a very, very popular blogger, and he was on cable news interview. You know, but poor Joe, he sort of gave up his power, because in the first impression you make in those first 7 seconds, he didn't make a very good one, did he? Because you don't have a second chance to make a first impression. If we look at his image, and we're going to be analyzing images later on, doesn't it look like he has a plant coming out of his ear? Right? Doesn't it look like, what is that thing coming out of his ear? You have to sort of stop and figure out that it's a ficus plant. And then he has all this other, you know, unidentifiable object in the background. Oops. You might say, well, why is she trying to tell me how to use video? I've had video in my life since I was a child. I grew up in the native generation. I grew up with a cell phone in my hand. I know how to do video. I've been doing video since I was 3. Why should I learn this? You know, there's a big difference because what you're doing socially doesn't translate into what you're doing for business. I coach a number of millennials, and I have to tell you, they're my worst students. They show up so poorly because they've taken it for granted. They do this so much that it's like getting into those comfortable slippers, but it's not a time for slippers anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to really get your game going and make this space work for us. 90% of how we process information comes through our eyes. 90%. If you don't turn on your video and if you don't make this space look good, you're giving it up. You're giving up your power. Only 10% of what you may remember from what I said during this hour will be auditory, will be what I said. You remember 90% of what you saw, only 10% of what I said. And that's pretty powerful. Which of these plates is more appealing and appetizing? The one on the left or the one on the right? I think I know the answer. Clearly the one on the left. Maybe the same food. How it's presented on the left surely warrants my paying a price for that restaurant to serve me, or I will enjoy every morsel versus what is on the right. Presentation matters. You might say, virtual meetings, they're tiring, fatigue, there's just too many of them. I can't sit another minute in front of the webcam. But there is so much on the plus side of the equation. The upside is quite significant because there's no commuting, right? There's economies in terms of fuel consumption, resources allocated to make physical workspaces function. There's immersive experience. I say immersive because we're looking at each other's eyes. Well, not really, but we're looking at each other's eyes. And if you spotlight my video, you're going to be seeing every hair on my face, every imperfection, everything about me that we would not be able to share if we were at a socially acceptable distance in person, right? So it's immersive. It's immersive because we're looking at each other all the time, right? So there's a lot more intimacy, hence a lot more trust that needs to be brought to our communications in this format. It's meaningful because everything that we say should be economically focused. It should be well organized. And that's another part of the work I do, which is to help people organize these meetings so they're much more meaningful and effective. We're closer collaborations because everybody who's sharing the screen with us is in a collaborative setting. And these teams are now being worked very, very successfully to make those interactions very, very powerful and productive. And it makes for stronger teams, right? Because we're going through this whole transition into this whole new workplace. We're doing this together. And so that will forge bonds that will serve us for the long term. What do we need to do for this to work? And people always ask me, what's the checklist, right? And I'll be offering you a checklist after the session concludes. But what are some of the basic things? And I think dogs is always a very, very appealing way to think of us as, we're just sort of, puppies sharing the screen, right? We're all sort of learning together in this new wild world. But first, it starts with turning on your video. You can't succeed unless you turn on your video. Know your equipment. You got to be up to speed on all the new features, all the functionalities, everything that comes with Zoom updates, or whether you do any platform. Every platform has its good features and its bad features. There's some, like WebEx is far superior to Zoom, but it takes a lot longer to learn and it's more enterprise focused. Learn your equipment, learn how to work your webcam, learn how to work your microphone, learn how to work your lights, learn to use what you have. Mind you, I don't encourage you to go out and buy the latest and most expensive equipment. You can probably and most likely improve your image, improve your presence with what you already have in hand. It could be an iPhone, okay? It could be whatever technology you're using right now. Get camera ready. I would never sit in front of you without at least combing my hair, putting on some lipstick and something that is presentable. I wouldn't think of it. It's just my reputation is on view every time I connect with someone on Zoom. So dress the part. Create a dedicated space. People might say, well, I have 5 kids, they're running around in the background, there's too much noise, I share an apartment with someone. You can always find a corner. Create a screen, find an area that is yours, that you claim for the work you're doing. By the way, this is not optional. This is going to be the way we work and function and earn a living for a long time. So it's not optional. You can find creative ways of doing this. And I can show you how, but there's a lot of things you probably already have on hand that you can make work for that purpose. Set an agenda. Set an agenda. I know I skipped over, make yourself heard. Make sure you have good sound. And then set an agenda so you're using time efficiently. People's attention spans are shorter every day. As a matter of fact, I think if you look at the length of a TED Talk, which is about 15 to 18 minutes, that psychologically is the longest that someone can really pay attention to you. So think in terms of how do you make every second count, and anticipate that there will be failures. The internet could go down right now. There could be a power outage. Multiple things could happen. Always have a backup plan. And with that, I'm going to stop here for a moment. And Dan, I want to know if there's any questions based on what we shared so far.
I'm going to invite folks in the chat to put any questions that you might have. And while I do that, I'm going to just talk very briefly about an experience that I had with Rosemary consulting with me. So you can see how very strategically I have a flower right here, which is, I bought fresh and is now like 4 months old. I have a ring light right here with a secondary light here to avoid kind of the full face, to give me a full face illustration. I strategically positioned this. You'll laugh because it says in person. So I covered it up with in person, and now it just says classes and workshops. But it was like so funny that like, you know, I was moving so quickly with, and every time I was presenting, it said in person. So I just took a little bit of tape, Rosemary. It doesn't look terrible, right?
Yeah, that looks good. Looks good.
You know? And so,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going to be building a new, you know, with a logo with some orange in it to give a little bit of a pop. But all of this was the product of 2 hours spent with Rosemary. You know, I love that my background is my books. You know, like our background says a lot about who we are and what we value. And I've always been a reader. And so your coaching really taught me how to be myself, but my best version of myself. And I'm also wearing PJ bottoms. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually wearing shorts. You'll be proud of me. We have a wonderful question from Paula Selva. Rosemary, how do you prepare for an outage?
Okay. Well, I may ask Dave, the tech wizard, to jump in on this. You would have to have a backup. So you either have a hotspot on your phone, okay, or you have another device that you can log on. So in other words, I have Zoom on my phone. So if I were to have to drop out, I could then jump on through the Zoom app on my phone, for example. So you have to find redundancies really in ways that either have to do with your power, with your internet. Mobile devices are usually the best backup plan that you can connect within less than a minute and resume the meeting and not waste a lot of time. Dave, do you have any other, want to weigh in on anything from your perspective?
No, I think that's great. It's always good to have a battery backup for your computer, just for those quick power blips and things like that. Doesn't cost a lot of money. But aside from that, connectivity is the big issue, and it is the new missed flight.
Right. Thank you.
You know, Dave, who the hell are you? So Rosemary, now I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's Dave Bricker?
Oh, Dave Bricker is a master storyteller. He is just a master of so many different skills, you know, from web design to storytelling. He's a master sailor. He is a highly sought after speaker, and he is a mentor of mine, and he's a past president of the Miami Wynwood Toastmasters. And he has passed on that leadership to me and guided me, and has guided so many great speakers, world-renowned speakers, to the stage. So Dave is a friend, and he's particularly adept at the technology part of virtual communications. He's written a book which is called, Dave, I have it right here. I can get it from virtual speaking in the.
Speak inside the box.
Yes, exactly. A very, very good guide to get you started.
You know, it's funny. I can't believe
Rosemary
asked me if my books were real. I'm not sure whether I should be offended. But yeah, they're real, man. And this is Bruce's book, which is right on top of my shelf. So anyway, I think that's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I got to say, it's pretty cool that it looks so good that it looks like they're fake, and that's because of Rosemary. Bruce, we're going to... Bruce.
And Dan, sorry to interrupt you. Do you have anybody really cool for me to introduce? Because Bruce introduced Rosemary and Rosemary introduced me, and I'm just feeling stuck.
Here's what we'll do. You'll introduce me at the very end so that I can give my little spiel that I was going to give at the beginning, because I actually prepared some remarks.
All right.
So that'll be the deal. We'll have you back at the end.
Any other questions that I should address right now?
Yeah. Gosh, we're getting a lot coming in. Let me see. What kind of screen are you using? Donna Langley is asking.
Sure. Well, you might say, well, I like to use this screen when I present because it is clean, it has my logo and branding, and you're only looking at me. I'm much more of a proponent of live sets, of real, like Dan has. And that's what I encourage people to do. However, when I am teaching, I only want you to focus on me. I don't want to have any distractions. I will show you in a few slides what my real living set looks like. But I use a green screen, a physical green screen that is like a projector screen, rolls up from the bottom, not from the top. It's green, and it allows me to have sharper images when I choose to use a virtual background.
I want to ask you why it's important for all of these participants, many of whom are not doing this, to put on their videos.
Oh, I just covered it. The 90% to 10%, I think, is probably the most compelling reason. Yeah. You're missing, this is a visual medium. This is not an audio call, okay? Yeah. If you choose to do a teleconference like we did for so many years, right? And, we always struggle with how do you make your presence known on a teleconference, right? You have to say something, otherwise they think I'm not there, right? You have to show up. We know Woody Allen's famous saying is 80% of life success is showing up. So this medium is made for visual. Now, obviously the situations where there's privacy, I'm talking about generalities. There's things that apply to different industries and corporate cultures. There's obviously always exceptions. But my point to you is, if you're not showing up, you're giving your power up. You're leaving it on the table.
Yeah. You're not getting out of this as much, is basically, like, you might be there, but when your screen is off, you're less likely to be paying attention, and you're less likely to be present, and you're more likely to multitask, and you're going to miss this beautiful presentation. Right. I will also say that, like, Bruce is backlit right now. I mean, obviously he wasn't prepared to be, Eden Barshan is backlit. I would generally say that you should make a point of always, you should make a point of always being kind of at your prepared best, even if it's a Zoom call where you're just a participant. Find yourself a workspace where you can be front lit. I mean, for many of you, it really is just a matter of sitting on the other side of the table. But it does, it is weird to look at people in silhouette. Sorry to call you out. There you go, Eden. I love it. He just took his laptop and just flipped it, and now I see his beautiful scruffy beard. Renu Modi asked a really beautiful question. We're very proud of all the different shades of skin that we have in our audience, and she asked, "What are good and bad backgrounds and colors for darker skin?"
You have to play with it. You have to play with it. Obviously, you want to have enough contrast so that not only your skin tone, but your garments are well contrasted with the background. The virtual background technology is based on sort of shape definition. So the camera needs to know that there's an outline there of something, right? And then put the other image behind you. So the more contrast that you have with your background, the better. right? And as well as the lighting. The lighting should be even. You might require more lighting than others. But the point is, I must have tried 20 different, pairings of background to garments to make sure that if I had worn black, I wouldn't be as I think appealing, based on the taupe background. If I wore white, I would be really washed out. So play with it. I have a Zoom wardrobe because I do this professionally. But if you spend a lot of time in this space, you might want to have a few pre-selected garments that will work for you no matter what.
Bruce, did you have something you wanted to say? I couldn't tell. I saw your hand go up.
No, I was waving at somebody who's leaving.
Okay.
Got it. I want to show you just really quickly, like one of the things that Rosemary recommended this O light, but one of the other things is, you still need like a counter light. So this is a professional quality O light, right? But you can see how I'm getting a lot of shadows. So she suggested that I have, and maybe, what do you think? Do you think 1 or 2 is better?
2.
Yeah. So you can see that, it's not, like Rosemary was at the highest levels of Univision for years. I don't know if anybody's mentioned that yet, but like these are things that come from years of being a broadcaster and then translating it into our home spaces. All right, let's see. We have a couple other great questions. How can I get my logo to show? So Rosemary's logo is on the lower right-hand corner.
Sure.
Also her biopic.
Yes. So what I do is create a PowerPoint. It's a PowerPoint slide. You can find within PowerPoint, there's all kinds of backgrounds that you can use, gradient, all different colors, textures. I would say something very, very soft. And then I just put my logo on there as if it were a PowerPoint presentation. I saved it as PowerPoint. You can save it as anything, and it's a graphic format, and then just import it into your Zoom virtual background collection. So just as you have, it comes with the default of, yes, that's just right, Dan. So it just as comes with the default of the Golden Gate Bridge and palm tree swaying in the background, you can upload your own.
Yeah, so the way you do that is when it's where your video is in the bottom left, if you click the little arrow, it says choose virtual background, and then you can upload a virtual background. Now, I don't have a green screen, so you get this weirdness, right? And when you do this, it looks weird. So I don't like using a virtual background if I don't have a green screen. But I think it's worse than just having a nice background that you can use in settings like this.
Right. One more, or do we move on?
Yeah. How are we doing on time? Do you want me to move on?
But you already said that there were 2. Let's go to the next one. The next question.
Yeah. Susan Windmiller asked, I have not, this will be the last question for this round, and then we'll have another round. I'm still not mastered how to look at my camera, so I'm looking at you, but then I can't follow the speaker. Like Rosemary's off center. How do I manage the guest sight line? How do I manage the sight line? I love that.
That's an advanced technique. What I would say is right now I'm looking at, I have 2 screens. I have one that has my presentation, one that has all of you or most of you. And then I have my webcam mounted on the top edge of my monitor. On top of that, I have a little monkey face with 2 little eyes, 2 little beady eyes. So I'm looking at the little eyes of the webcam. I mean, as if it was a real monkey. It helps me focus my eyesight. But what I also try to do is to shift my eyes so that it doesn't look like I'm staring at the lens all the time. It's like the raccoon in the headlights kind of look. So I move about in a more natural way, as if I were really in front of you, right? You're not going to stare at somebody's eyes all the time. So I shift my gaze around, so that I'm looking, I can then get a glance at the screen, but I'm not going to be reading the chat because I'd be really focusing. I'm taking my eyes off of where I want to be. So basically that's what works for me. Generally, if you put something near your webcam that is a photo of a loved one, something that will draw your eyes to it, it'll be a lot easier for you to remember where to look.
Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Quick question. Cheryl Cattell asked, should you come on camera if you're eating lunch?
Never, unless you're having lunch with the other people, unless it's a lunch date. But no, do not eat. Don't chew gum. Okay. Don't do other things like, play with your hair or, check out your nails. If it's social and it's a family thing, you can do whatever you want. But I'm talking about using this format for business. Okay. But no, do not, if you're eating, if you're having a lunch break with colleagues, that's totally different. Okay,
All right.
it doesn't look very nice when you're eating. You know, this is like, I would not recommend it. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah. How about drinking water? That's okay, right?
Oh yeah, you have to drink water. Yeah, because I mean, already I feel dehydrated. Yeah, of course, you drink as much as you need to. All right, let's take a look. We already covered a little bit of this, but so we're looking at common mistakes, right? So the gentleman in the blue bathrobe is looking down, and obviously we want to make virtual look as human as possible. Let me say it again, make virtual look as human as possible. So clearly, you wouldn't be looking down at someone. I mean, it's not only disrespectful, but it shows that he didn't even bother to play with the camera angle, okay? This is a typical angle for a laptop, obviously, because a laptop usually is on a desktop, on a surface. You need to raise that baby up. Books, boxes, whatever you have around, it creates a stable surface, bring it up. Low camera angle, wrong attire, eye line is off, and a terrible background. I don't want to see the air vent. I don't want to see the light fixture. Okay, I don't want to see your closet door. Okay, this is just not appealing whatsoever. I wouldn't do business with this guy. The woman on the right, however, she actually did what one of you did just a few minutes ago, took the laptop and turned it around 180 degrees so that the front, she's facing the window and is not what I call the shadow creature. Okay, shadow creatures are not very attractive because you can't see their eyes, you can't see their faces. Clearly, it's someone who hasn't taken the time, and I have to say this is really important, set up your shot before you join the call. It takes just 30 seconds. Set it up, make sure your camera is properly set up, make sure that you are sitting comfortably, that you're framed properly, that you have the right lighting. I mean, sometimes where I sit, I have a lot of light coming in, natural light from outside. There'll be a ray of sunlight that suddenly beams through the window and it'll spoil the shot. Set it up ahead of time. This gentleman is a public speaker. Dave, you probably know him. Justin, he's an established public speaker, motivational speaker. This is how he was before he had his correction, right? You see him with looking down at the camera, a lot of overhead lighting, messy background. Look at this extraordinary transformation. I'm not responsible for that one. But it's just, I think for me, such a dramatic before and after. Look how he is not only in this powerful, authoritative, masterful place, the way he's dressed and the way his body is positioned, but look at all the accessories, how he has really brought powerful elements to complement his message, using the screen as instead of sharing the screen for PowerPoint, using things like diplomas and motivational sayings up above the bookshelf, books that are strategically positioned to say something about what he stands for. All of these things speak to who you are. It's a beautifully composed image. Now we're talking about how it looks. Obviously, what he says and how he interacts is something totally different, which is for another workshop. Now, you can create a powerful presence with your body just with what shows in the upper part of your body. Look at the hands. Look at what Tim Cook does. He likes to do this steeple, this prayer thing often. And it means certain things. It means acknowledgement. It means gratitude. It also is a rather weak position for someone at his stature. Okay, I mean, the top guy at Apple. So it is not, but he likes to do this a lot. It's sort of acquiescence. So it says something, but you can do this within the limitations of your shot. Arnold Schwarzenegger is like he wants to be the master of the universe. He wants to be the Atlas. He's holding the world in his hands, big hands. And he's showing them close to the camera to accentuate his masterful, powerful, Atlas kind of look. Now there's Tim again, doing the thinker pose. Is he bored? Is he really just paying attention because he's so enthralled by what's happening? Is he just doesn't know what to do with his hands? It can work against you, but it's also something you can do in this box. And then this gentleman is the head of Cisco. His name is Chuck Robbins, and he's doing something called basically the box gesture, where he's actually framing, emphasizing his statement by using his hands to sort of say, this is, I stand by what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying. So it's another powerful gesture you can use. Facial expressions, there's hundreds of thousands of facial expressions. everything from the voluntary to the involuntary, everything from the raised eyebrow to the wrinkled nose to the twitching eye. All of these things say something about you. The voluntary ones are the ones you can control, the ones that you can command to your purpose. The involuntary ones, you need to be aware of them, because everything we do in this box, again, is magnified. That's why we call it immersive and intimate. Okay, so the eye contact is probably the most important of these. The smile is always something that you can use, to bring people closer to you. It's a magnet. And either the attending face. The attending face means that you're paying attention, right? That you are acknowledging, you're honoring what I'm saying by paying attention to me. And then, of course, the appropriate attire and good grooming. Good grooming is very important. But by that I mean, even just gentlemen could use a little powder or blotting of the oil on your face. With the lights, it shines. So we know that makeup is used by men on television all the time. It's a necessary part of the trade. Think about that when you're doing your Zooms. The ear pull. We may not be aware. We know a lot of women also play with our hair. If I had hair, I might want to be twirling it if I'm nervous. Touching the nose, scratching the nose, touching your face, rubbing your eyes. All these things say something about your state of mind that can affect your ability to communicate, and conversely, your ability to be a team player and to be part of a winning team that's cohesive. Now, this is where I wanted to show you what's behind my screen. So the question was asked, green screen or living set? So on the top right is what my room looks like. And those of you who have done webinars with me have seen this already. I have curated it to say something about who I am. I've curated it with living things, the plant, with flowers. You might have already noticed a lot of sunflowers on cable news interviews. I didn't start that. I started this in February. But people are using the sunflowers, a very pretty, colorful, large blossom. So it's a nice flower to use. Things that are textured, things that are organic, things that are. Someone has a microphone on?
She was not one who mourns.
Yeah, I'll turn it off.
Yeah. And so things that are texture, things that are tactile.
She was diagnosed with.
But then if I were to use the White House behind me, obviously that's sort of fake, right? That doesn't really look credible, unless it's something that I'm doing that relates to the White House. So the top living set, I think, is far more credible. Now, the gentleman on the left he's doing a basketball thing. So clearly he's benefiting from all of the props, accessories that create a stage, that use stagecraft to tell his story. Oops, okay, so.
Can I interrupt you for a sec?
Yes, sure.
This is actually a question I wanted to ask and a point of personal curiosity. So could you go back one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for what it's worth, the upper right, is your actual background of your home.
Right.
And I've always adored it. I love the colorfulness of it and the fresh flowers and so perfectly composed. And there's Bruce's book. And yet today you're using a very muted color background with a bright red outfit. And I'm just curious, I know everything you do is so considered. And I'm curious about the decision or the thinking behind not using your natural background for this presentation. Yes,
it's cluttered. There's a lot to look at. I don't want your eyes wandering off on what's on my bookshelf. I don't want you looking at the embroidered pillows. I want you looking at me. So it's purposeful. It's purposeful. If this was a different kind of meeting, I would go to my living set. And I have to tell you, sometimes I also use this setting with the green screen to then do overlays, to have something pop into my screen that's a feature of my webcam. So I can't really do that as well with the natural background. So it's a choice. It's not, if you're doing something that's branded, like with your BizHack background, for example, that's clearly an opportunity to underscore your brand. Okay, but that's really only achievable if you use a green screen as a background. So there's no formula. It's what works for you. But my point is, make it count, make it represent you properly. then 90% is visual. What information are you taking away from my natural background? That I love color, that I love handmade things, that I love plants, that I have a number of artisanal things, artistic things, handmade things, right? That I love flowers, that I have a good sense of composition. So those are the nonverbal cues that you're receiving from the way I've composed that shot. Does that answer the question, Dan?
It does. And out of curiosity, since you have a couple options available, so you have mine right now, which is a natural background, which obviously looks good, but maybe isn't right for this setting. And then you have Lilia's, who's a virtual background that's branded and it promotes the series. For this setting, for me, for us, which would you recommend? Should Lily and I be matched? What do you think?
I think you should be matched. You should be matched. I already complimented her on her ochre sweater, which works within that background. She picked that dominant color from the background, but because of the way the background frames her, it just comes over to her shoulders. It's just a lovely, she has a beautifully composed shot. I think it just really, really works. It's very, very flattering. Perfect. But if you appear together, I would encourage you to have the same background. Perfect. Okay. Going to move on to composition. Now, this is something that anyone who's taken any photography class will know. Good composition. You know it sort of without knowing it, with maybe even you haven't studied it, but you know when you take a shot, when you see someone's Instagram, you know when the shot is properly composed, right? Now, there's a lot to it that you may not realize. It has to do with rule of thirds and golden ratio and all these things that are very, very much based on ancient laws of composition, balance, and harmony. But rule of thirds says the eyes should be in the top third. So if you see this gentleman's eyes are in the top, the line that's up on top, the first line, okay, of 3 lines. So if you compose your shot that way, you will be well framed and you will be looking, you will come across appealing to the people at the other end. Okay, so basic composition, as you would see from a portrait studio. So composition, balance, depth of field. Many of you can achieve that with your type of webcam, where you have a lot of things in the background and you have a sense of other rooms and other sort of a real place where people inhabit. I'm going to show you some examples of that in a moment. And focus, make sure you're focused and that the exposure is correct, that you're not too dark, you're not too bright. Okay. This is, and you're going to see Bob Bonin is a good friend of many of us. What are the environmental cues that speak to who you are? Bob clearly is a musician. He is a folk troubadour. He is a performer. He is a guitarist, and he does concerts all over South Florida. And so this is work I did with him, where he's telling you what he does. He's telling you what his passion is. Similarly, Chef Jose Andres, with his passion and love of feeding people in need, it couldn't be a bigger paella dish, right? It's just as big as that man's heart, right? So there's a clear sense of what does this man do for a living, right? He feeds people who need to eat good food, who are in crisis, right? He's a true humanitarian. The 5 senses, we're working with 2, sight and sound. But what about the other 3? How can we insinuate them into our shot? Well, I use sunflowers and I use a living plant. Flowers can remind us, even though it's subliminal, of the smell of a rose. The oranges, how does an orange, fresh cut orange taste? It tastes, as we all know, it tastes, right? So all these things can be reminders, can just be cues, even though we can't enjoy those things in our natural setting, in our virtual setting, they come from our natural setting. And similarly, things that are textured. Texture can remind us of touch. Okay, so don't underestimate that we can bring these elements in that you already see them in film, you see them in photography, they're already in use, but they're at your disposal if you know how to use them. Success beyond what we're talking about here has other things, and this is what I cover in my workshops, but this is just a tasting, and I want to get to our exercise. Think about presence and body language. There's a lot to know there. Vocal tone, energy, right? All these things that come from our voice. Any of the public speakers on this call would tell you that's extremely important to use our instrument properly. Stage fright and anxiety. People do get nervous about leading or speaking on a Zoom call. We do. It's natural. So how do you overcome that? The color psychology, what Lily is wearing, that ochre color, what does red say about us? This color psychology to understand and exploit. How to organize a meeting, how to organize an agenda so that it's efficient and people stay connected and that there's a positive outcome or desired outcome. And then how do we deal with the inevitable Zoom fatigue and burnout that comes from being in front of the camera and looking at a screen for so many hours at a time? Okay, so with that, I'm going to get into a little bit of our ZoomScore exercises, and I'm going to actually start off by telling you that even the tech titans, even the masters of the tech universe, don't always get it right. Case in point, these four were giving congressional testimony about July of this year, right? About whether the internet should be, and social media should be regulated further, right? So there was a lot at stake here. Zuckerberg showed up as if he was some kind of a hostage. You know, there was absolutely nothing in his background that spoke to anything about who he is, what his company stands for. It's just like he was like in a barn somewhere. There was absolutely no humanity to it. And he himself always looked so robotic. It didn't really favor him. He got a lot of flack online. Bezos was a little bit better, although he said is very sterile. I mean, he had that yellow filter that I don't understand how people who can afford like the best of the best of the best to help them with this, he couldn't get it right. Sundar Pichai, sort of got it a little better. He got it a little better. He's got a little texture going on in the background. He's got some natural things on his desk. He's got some really weird looking plastic plant over to his right. Not the best. But then here we are, Tim Cook again, doing his steeple prayer pose with some plants that looked like they were just plucked from the front, entrance of the Apple building, like last minute improvised, not their best, right? They all got flagged for it online afterwards. But anyway, so we know that even the best don't always get it right. So with that, I'm going to invite you to do a game with me. We're going to do a poll. I'm going to do a poll of 6 images that I'm going to show you taken from the air, from news programs. There's some people you will recognize and some people that you won't, but they all have a message for you. So if you'll indulge me, there's 10 different things on the checklist. Sharpness of image, composition. These are going to be repeated later. Proper lighting, framing, the eye level, background choice, background styling, distance from the camera, is somebody too close or somebody too far away, attire and wardrobe, and personal appearance. So those are the 10 elements of the ZoomScore checklist. With that, we're going to actually ask you to rate this video. And here we go. Here we have a poll. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what kind of ZoomScore would you give Matthew? Sharpness, composition, framing, lighting, eye level, background, styling, distance, wardrobe, and appearance. Just quickly. And let's see what you think. Okay. Give it a few more seconds.
Guys, make sure that you vote on the screen that it's showing up.
And Lilia, I think I'm the one who's going to end the poll. So we'll give it 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. Only 45 of you have done it. You're probably not paying attention if you haven't yet. Give it another second or 2. Okay.
So it seems like a tie between 4 and 5, right? Clearly not the best. Clearly not the best. And let me tell you why. I would give Matthew a 2. Because first of all, he didn't take the time to figure out what's behind him. Now he has a kitchen and that's fine. I mean, that's clearly his home, but like, did he have to show us like, there's things on the counter that we can't identify. There's nothing attractive about it. He didn't bother to put a plant there. He's got his angle of the camera's all wrong. He's already a round-faced man, but he looks even rounder. His microphone looks like some kind of like probe. It looks very, very ominous. He's got a screen there and then some white pillows. I mean, it's clearly, he's a very, very respected demographer, but clearly it was not his best showing, right? So does it take away from his authority? Would we believe him more if he had a better composed video? I think we would. Let's go to the next one.
Hey, as a round-faced man, I took offense to that.
But he had a wide angle lens, so his face looked even bigger than it really is. Dan, I love you. Come on. Julissa Arce. She is an author, a Latinx leader. How would you rate her video? Can we launch the next poll, please?
Yep, it's launched. Okay, everybody, we know the score. So get your votes in. They're pouring in. 40 of you have voted. Let's see if we can get up above 50 this time. We'll give it another 5 seconds. 5, 4. Come on, let's get over 50, guys. 3, 2. Oh my God, we're at 47, 48, 49. Come on. 1. All right, 49 of you answered.
Okay. And
somebody vote twice. This is America.
Okay.
Salad stuffing.
The winning number is 8. All right. So 8. I would give her a 9. And I'll tell you why. But yeah, she's clearly in the top scorer level. She is dressed in the soft pastel pink, which goes with her flowers, which has a natural element. You can almost smell the flowers. She may not have a lot of room in her house, so she picked this corner of a bookcase. She put a draped ivy plant coming gently behind her, but it doesn't look like it's coming out of her ear. Her titles are all very carefully positioned so that it sort of speaks to her passion. Okay, and it looks like there's some kind of framed print, but it doesn't. Sometimes things are like, what's the mystery item behind there? What is that thing that she has? We don't see enough of it to really command our curiosity. So it's not distracting. We see her well framed, we see her well lit, and she's well groomed. So I think this is someone who clearly is showing up as a leader. Okay. Next, another Latinx leader, very, very respected, established Hispanic journalist. She's better known for her work on NPR, Maria Hinojosa. How would you rate her room?
I know Maria from my days as the news director at WLRN and at NPR. She's fabulous.
Yeah, she is.
All right, 5, 4. Come on, guys. 3. We get above 50? No. 2. We're at 45. Come on. 1. I think some of you are not paying attention.
Okay. Well, it seems like it's a 4. Okay. I think that's fair. Let me tell you what could work better for Maria. She is, and it doesn't have to do with the fact that this is soft focus, because I take a lot of these with my iPhone from air, so it may not be the sharpest image, but she is, that's a nice color, but the camera angle is too low. Okay. Why do we know that? Because if you see here, we see the sort of rough edge of the paint job. You see the edge and the ceiling and the lilac wall, right? So it's not particularly flattering. I don't want to see her corner. And oops, am I drawing?
No, I think that's someone in the crowd.
Okay, all right. Look at the artwork to her right, to your left on the screen. Does that seem? Is that something that you think is comfortable? Are you comfortable with that? To me, look, for the sake of time, it looks erotic to me. It looks erotic. So it's like, what are these two figures doing? What does it mean? So it's like suddenly my eyes are going right to it, not only because of the image not being mysterious to me, saying, what does that mean? What are they doing? What am I supposed to take away from that? But it's also very bright. So it really draws my eye immediately. Okay, so she missed an opportunity with that. Diego Poggi, he's a TV host from Argentina. How would you rate Diego's video? One.
And while we're doing that,
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, do you know how, I've always wondered why participants are able to draw on the screen and how to get rid of it.
Yeah, I know, and that's very odd because I'm supposed to do that.
I know. You know, maybe Lilia, we could look into that. It's happened a couple times. I don't think it's intentional, thankfully.
Yeah, that is odd because it's the annotation. You probably have enabled annotations.
Yeah, we'll take
for everybody. I thought maybe your kid was doing something with one of my grandchildren with a pencil. Anyway, Diego honestly is there like a perfect 10. Not only is he super handsome, but look at how he has organized his image. He has depth of field. It gives you a sense of what's beyond the walls of his room, right? He uses plants beautifully in a nice splash of green, and they look like they're really natural. He's giving you a sense of height because the stairs go somewhere. He has a little touch of artwork, which talks about something about technology, right? About a conference, and he is well dressed for his role. He's got a nice, it's denim, but he's well dressed. He's beautifully groomed. He's beautifully lit, and he is perfectly centered on the screen. So you can see his eye line is right perfectly in that top third of the trio of sections. So he's a beautiful, perfect 10. How would you rate Dr. Jackson?
You know, as a round-faced, ugly man, I'm just starting to feel really bad about myself.
Oh, damn. No, well, he's not. He's not that round-faced. He just has a really bad camera angle.
How do I look right now?
I love you anyway, Dan.
Tell that to my wife.
Okay, we just have a few minutes. I don't want to go over time. So we may not have time for the hot seat. But anyway, Ronnie Jackson looks terrible. Why does he look terrible? Not only because the camera angle is off, it's actually too high. But look at that room. What is he in this is not a virtual background. This is like, what, did his wife divorce him and took all the furniture? What, is he moving in? I mean, could he have put something on that couch that doesn't look like somebody just slept on it? Right? Could he have maybe gone closer to the wall and used the wall as a background instead? I mean, it's like one of the ugliest backgrounds you could ever imagine. I mean, this guy is running for office, okay, in the state of Texas. He's running for office. So, excuse me. I mean, you couldn't do any better. I mean, this is really shabby. So I would give him like a 1. Okay.
So
Yes.
we're not in broadcast, and we don't have to honor the end time because I know we had a little bit of fun in the beginning. So I'd like to do the hot seat. Can I announce the name?
Sure. I have one more image and then we'll do the hot seat, or do you want to just jump to the hot seat?
Can we jump to the hot seat?
Sure. Let's go.
All right, let's
Okay.
do this. All right, drum roll, please. And it goes to Florencia Jimenez Marcos.
You're killing me. I didn't even put in my name for the hot seat, Dan.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Could we spotlight her video? And then I'd like people to contribute because Florencia. So this is virtual. Okay.
It is virtual, and I was not meant to be on camera today. I was driving, so this is what I've got.
Okay. Good. Okay. So I'm seeing some things I can point out immediately. Oh, are you going to do the poll?
No, I was gonna
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just stop the poll. Well, the hot seat. Okay, I'm going to give you the hot seat. So I love what you're wearing. The necklace is maybe a little bit too busy, and it's really, that was the first thing I saw when I spotlighted your video. So maybe it's drawing too much attention. Secondly, you would need to remember what I talked about composition. You need to sit up a little higher.
Okay.
Sit up a little higher so that there's less space up here.
Okay.
Okay. Then the resolution is pretty good if you don't move too much. You know, the virtual background is working, except that you used an image that has a watermark.
Right.
And
I
so
don't have that one. That's why I was just driving and I just grabbed one from my phone. It's not the one I normally use.
okay, so the watermark is sort of a giveaway.
Right.
Okay.
Put it on when he said turn on the camera, but I normally use real photos.
Okay. Do you is this a place that resembles where you normally would work?
No, literally, this is not something that I would normally use.
Okay. Well, since it is a virtual background that is probably for sale, and you can download from a site, it is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's nicely composed. It has enough greenery, but it's dead. There's very little life in it. There's no papers on the
Sure.
desk, right? It looks a little wooden and artificial to me. But
Right. It is not what I would normally use.
right. Generally not bad. Anybody else want to comment?
Well,
I would give you a 5.
I think Florencia is beautiful, and I love the red frames of her glasses.
Okay.
And it's interesting, Rosemary, that you talked about your Zoom wardrobe. I normally use something very similar to what you have. I have a red and a purple that, depending on the background and the situation, I would use.
Good. That's terrific. You mentioned glasses. No one has asked about that, and that's a common question. And I would ask Dave and Bruce and anyone else who does a lot of public speaking in this space to weigh in. But there really there are no non-glare glasses. In other words, glasses will always reflect. It's how you light them. So you want your light to be from above, so that, and yours are not, they're not, there's no glare, but like for mine, for example, I would need to just sort of light from further up, because otherwise you're going to get glare, and that's inevitable. And for those of us who need glasses just to be able to function or to read, I think it's important for you to take that into consideration. Sometimes people have the ring lights, and then you'll see the round ring reflected in the glasses. That's distracting. That is distracting. Again, there's no right or wrong. I just want to stress it's what works for you and enhances who you are, what you want to say, what you want to achieve. So you might say, well, no, this doesn't apply to me. Pick what works, but come out here as your best. You're giving up a tremendous opportunity if you don't. Dan, any other questions? Thank you, Florencia, for being in the hot seat.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you, Florencia, for being here and for being a BizHaps season pass holder. And Rosemary, does she get anything as a thank you for being on the hot seat?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to share screen again, because I want to show you that I have a boot camp. It actually is more of a mini Zoom camp, not a boot camp, mini Zoom camp that's next week. So I invite Florencia to be my guest on this on this occasion. Hope you can make it. It's next Wednesday at 4 p.m., 90 minutes. And we're going to take a real deep dive into these topics. So my gift to you is to give you a place as my guest to come to the October 14th. And I hope you'll be able to fit that into your schedule. And all of you, you're going to be getting this information afterwards. There are 3 dates for the remaining part of the year: October, November, December, 90 minutes, very interactive, but it covers a lot of the things that we didn't have time to talk about today.
Perfect. I have 2 quick questions I wanted to share. Yay, Floor. Let me unpin you. Let me see how to do that. I'll figure it out in a sec, or maybe Lilia, you could do that while I read the questions that we had. So one of the questions was from Amy Palma. Her question was, how do you compare showing your personal space, not perfect, but cute and shows who I am, versus a background? I like seeing people's real life house better.
Fine. We covered that already. If it works for you, but if you have a messy background and you have something that doesn't suit you, I mean, it's like the basics, right? So you're inviting someone to your house, right? What's the first impression you want to make when you open the door and say, welcome? Hopefully we'll be able to have lots of guests in our homes sometime next year. But you say, welcome. What do you want them to see? What do you want them to smell? How you want them to feel welcome? You want to extend your hospitality. You want to extend the best of who you are and what you have to give. It's the same psychology.
Yep. Susan Windmiller asked, I have a wall-mounted TV behind me. Should I get a movable screen or cover it?
Put it on. Put something on it. Make it work for you.
So you recommend Fox News?
not broadcast. You can actually do the HDMI and put your own feed in, have your own image.
Oh, I see, like a static image.
Yeah, like that gentleman, the public speaker I told you that showed you, Justin, you did the before and after, and you saw his logo and the title of his speech on his monitor. You can do that too. Or you can go to any one of these, I'm sure that your cable system has these sort of mood kind of videos, sort of looped images that are pretty, natural landscape, natural things, landscapes, pretty places, that kind of thing. But make it work for you. Don't just have this black blob there and not doing anything for you.
Perfect. And by the way, a couple people asked about how to get a nice virtual background, design one. Canva.com is a great option for that, guys. You can also hire, as Dave Bricker mentioned, a graphic designer to design one for you. And I would say that if you're someone who's doing this professionally, you certainly might consider that, but you don't need to. Canva.com is a great solution for kind of at-home graphic design. I'm going to hand it over to Dave Bricker. Dave, go ahead and talk about Toastmasters, and then you can talk about me, my own favorite topic.
Yeah.
Like everybody to know that Rosemary is the president of Miami Wynwood Toastmasters. And if you're unfamiliar with Toastmasters, I believe it has over 270,000 members around the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful organization that is dedicated to the art of public speaking, presentation skills. The chapter is all virtual, meets every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And it's a fun community of people. So whether you're just beginning and you're nervous about speaking, or you're a seasoned speaker and you want to polish your skills, try new material, it's a great crowd. It's every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. And the address, which I'll put in the chat, is wintoast.com, WYN toast.com, every Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
Excellent. All right, now say something nice about me.
Dan is my friend.
Perfect.
Actually, I am a graduate of Dan's Biz Hack program.
Me too.
As is Rosemary. And Dan runs a wonderful school, has a wonderful course, which I understand has also gone virtual. Haven't experienced that. I'm one of the old guard from in-person class days, but it's a very informative and powerful class on how to use social media to market yourself. And I joined up because the revenue that was produced by the people taking the class during the class blew me away. You get a small group of people sometimes generating over $100,000 in revenue during the 12-week class. Very few people produce those kinds of results. So check out bizhack.com.
Thank you, Dave. And our next 5-week program starts November 2nd. We're actually going to be holding an info session about the program and the scholarships that we're offering to minority and women-owned businesses at 12 noon, I should say, this Friday. I wanted to thank our partner, Miami Marketers, for helping bring a lot of you here today. Next week, we're going to be talking about mobile marketing in Latin America. We have our graduation party for our current 5-week accelerated course cohort. And then I'm going to be presenting my signature presentation, backed by popular demand, on the 5 pillars of digital campaigns. After that, we're going to have a holiday marketing roundtable. Can anybody hear me? The 7 keys to exponential marketing, free tools to find your ideal customer, our next graduation party, and then a networking for business growth in January. We're already programming into February. If you wanted to sign up in one pass for all of these amazing sessions in 2020, all you have to do is go to bhliveseasonpass.eventbrite.com, and you can get a free set of reminders, a calendar invite, and a follow-up email with a recording for all of our upcoming sessions. Rosemary, I'm so grateful to you for today's beautiful presentation. You've come such an incredibly long way, trademarking the idea of ZoomScore. I'm very proud of everything you've done, and I really thank you so much. So thanks to you, thanks to everybody for sticking around with us. And congrats, Floor. Enjoy.
Thank you. Be well, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
I'm still spotlighted, Dan.
I know.
Okay.
I don't know how we got all crazy with the spotlights. But you know, Lucy, Alfonso, Anthony, Bob, great to see you, Bob, as always. Jane, thank you for sharing about your experience of the course. Lorena, Marilyn, Marie, Paula, Renu, Shirley, Shakira, Susan, great to have you all here today. Thank you for a great webinar, everybody. Get yourself a season pass. It's a good time savings because we do this every week. All right, everybody.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Nice job, Dan.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Bob. Good to see you. I like your beard, Bob.
Oh, wait, Dan, you still there?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, look at, so I want to show you my other background.
Oh, okay, go for it. I love it. It's the, is that a marlin being chased by dolphins?
No, those are dolphin, but here's my real background. I think you ought to, see, hold on a second for me. I figure this out.
Okay. Hey, Anthony. Yeah,
How do you like that one?
I love, oh my God, this is X-rated. That is so funny.
Oh my gosh.
So this is Oprah Winfrey's bedroom.
You know, since we're kind of in the, like, going a little nuts, so I have this cup that I got for when people are annoying me with stupid questions. All right, I pulled it out.
This is my 5 o'clock.
Right, nice, nice.
Okay. This is the one my daughter uses at SMU. My granddaughter uses at SMU.
That's great.
And when I'm really upset with people, I use this one. And when I want to dominate the conversation, I use this one. So
nice.
Those are.
I love it.
And then we mentor a food company, and I use this one when we mentor the food company. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, like this
fun.
Yeah, you know, you can use props and stuff. You know, I use this one for whenever I'm getting annoyed at Lilia. We love you guys. Thanks for coming.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.